Hashem ibn al-Haq Eleon Allah, the American Israelite. It's Thursday, September 1st, 2022. And along this journey of the truth, I've been asked on more than one occasion why I'm not a member of any Israelite camp, group, or organization. For me, the answer is simple. I have a lot of ideological and theosophical and theological and many other differences with these Israelite groups. Particularly, I've noticed that across the board, no matter what organization, whether they be the two most prominent, which are Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge and Israel United in Christ, to the lesser ones like the Sakari or whoever else is out there, Sons of Thunder, who are, smaller groups coming up, all of which are offshoots or branches of universal practical knowledge. But I digress. I've never joined any of these groups because across the board, all of them have ego problems. Now, I know this because my ego ain't in check. So I know when the ego is present. I know when it's being less than ideal. I'll speak on why I haven't joined IUIC, who, by the way, in my opinion, are probably the most influential group right now, making the biggest moves in growing Israel. But why I haven't joined them, because, again, ego. Now, I have a lot of ideological difference with them, and I disagree with some of their doctrine. Outside of that, I will honor their bishop, Bishop Nathaniel Israel. When in the spirit, he know that book. He got good doctrine. He's probably, in my opinion, the most learned of the Israelites today. I'll go as far as to call him a man of God when he's in the spirit. But I know he got ego problems, and he got him in check, because any chance he get, any chance he gets to take a shot at a woman, he takes it. And I ain't mad at him, right? Somebody need to tell their asses, but he does it every chance he gets. Sometimes he makes up opportunities. So I know he got his ego in his lap, and because I got mine, I can see it. So I can't join that organization, right? Because not only the bishop, but his deacons, his captains, not all of them, but the bulk of them have the same issue. And because I got that issue, they'll say some slick shit to me, I'll say some slick shit back, and before you know it, they done put me out of an organization that I joined, because I'm just not going to allow them to speak to me any old kind of way. And I disagree with them. But you can't disagree with them and you can't challenge them, or they'll put you out. So I haven't joined IUIC for that reason, among others. After being informed that I was an Israelite, it took me a long time to really accept it, right? It must have been 7 years ago. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, my brother, came to me and was like, yo, we Israelites, you need to look into this. And even though I had heard it before, I really wasn't beat, but because it was him and I love my brother, I listened to him, and I took the information he gave me and I ran with it. Wasn't good enough, right? Because as I researched, I saw that these people who are called Israelite in the Bible, what stood out most to me about them was that they rejected their God, right? Their God grabbed them by the hand and liberated them from bondage. And they rejected him right away. They preferred a golden calf. And this was all of them. You can say that maybe Aaron didn't and a few others. But the reality is, when one Israelite went into captivity, they all went into captivity. So either way, they rejected God and have been rejecting God since the beginning. So I was like, that little bit of research showed me that I don't want no parts of this. I don't want to be that people. But I kept researching. I went to my brother, shout outs to Rebel, whose response when I told him, hey, it's a possibility that Puerto Ricans is Israelites, he was like, yeah, I already know all that, right? Tease told me, and I remember Tease, Danny, shout outs to Danny. I remember Tease, and I remember my brother telling me like 20, 30 years ago that Tease told him we were Israelites. I rejected it because I was, deaning, I was bumping my head. I was studying Islam, so I rejected it right away. 7 years ago, I rejected it after reading the Bible and realizing that this people, though chosen by God, did not choose God. Though holy and peculiar for God's sake, were anything but holy and peculiar in my experience. So, with that bit of information, I started doing more research, reading, finding out. And then I bumped into a class by Bishop Nathaniel. It was Bishop Nathaniel and, at the time, Deacon Yawasop, who's Bishop Yawasop now. And they did a very informative class on Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans. And Bishop Nathaniel kept saying, you Puerto Ricans don't know nothing. Shut up. Sit down. You might learn something. So I shut the fuck up. And I sat the fuck down and I listened. And his information was compelling, right? Not enough for me to accept it, but I mean, it would have been, right? In retrospect, it would have been, but I didn't. Then I found myself having to conduct business down 212 Washington Street in Newark. For those of you who don't know, that's the Superior Court of New Jersey, Chancery Division, Family Park, Essex Vicinage, Office of Child Support Enforcement. I owe them niggas money. That's a whole nother story. We'll get to that. But I was down there conducting some business, and I decided to go walk through downtown and go grab me a slice or something. I don't know. I was going to go walk the Broader Market. Anyway, as I'm taking a walk, I passed a group of young men. And as I passed them, one of them says to me, yo, Papi! And that shit went through me, right? Because I hate that shit. I hate it. Don't call me Poppy, nigga. I ain't your Poppy. But anyway, he did it. He called it Poppy. And even though there was hella Puerto Ricans down there at that time, I knew he was talking to me, right? So I doubled back. I went to him. He was like, yo, don't call me Poppy. I don't like it. And he was like, yeah, for sure. Then he said to me, I swear to God, true story. He said to me, Stockfiller. He said to me, you ain't a fucking Puerto Rican. And I looked at him and I was like, big bruh. He was a little bro. He was younger than me, but big bruh. If you know anything about Puerto Ricans, we'll cut you for less than that. And every Puerto Rican, knows that, right? I'm sure black people know that too. We'll cut you for less than that. So to attack our heritage, our culture, our identity, you better know what the fuck you talking about. But whatever. He went on for an hour. And in that hour, he took from me all of the doubt that I had. He took from me all of the misconceptions, everything that I was holding on to, right? He took it from me. And at that time, I had a Puerto Rican flag, right? That I used to carry with me. And he took it. He took it. And he was like, look at your flag, nigga. This is what he said. Look at your flag, nigga. And again, I'm like, wow, this is like pure disrespect. I should stab him. I should poke him up. But he took it and he said, look at it. What color is it? And I said, red, white, and blue. And he said, that's the color of your oppressor, you stupid nigga. And he threw it on the ground and he stepped on it. And I had to eat that. Because I couldn't argue with the whole red, white, and blue oppressor status, right? When you look at it. So then I start doing some more research, and lo and behold, right, all of the true Puerto Rican history was kept from me because I was born here, right? So I ain't know none of that. And I'll be honest, right? I don't know that anybody knew it because when no Puerto Ricans, with the exception of T's, Danny, no Puerto Ricans that I ever met, ever knew, was related to, ever talked about being Israelites. So I didn't want no parts of that. Fast forward, I go to my brother. I tell him, yo, we Israelites. He goes, yeah. T's already told him. And he suggested, very adamantly, I might add, that I should look into the Universal School of Practical Knowledge. And that I should particularly, look into Captain Tazariak Yahawada. Now, he ain't say it like that. I'm just saying it so that y'all don't be confused and know who the hell I'm talking about. But he said, look at Captain Tazariak. So I did. And the first video that came across my screen was when he told Polite, when he played Polite out. And this was supposed to be funny and entertaining and whatever. I didn't think it was funny. I immediately thought to myself, like, if this is who my brother wants me to look into, I don't understand, because a nigga's an egomaniac. You can see by the way he was behaving. He said, and I quote, "This is how much of a bitch Polite is." Now I'm thinking, captain of the UPK, speaking like that, calling another man, particularly a black man, a bitch. I was like, this is not a reputable organization. So I started researching them, and it turns out that they are a reputable organization, that they, come from strong background and deeply rooted in American society. But I ain't like them. So I put that aside and started, following UPK classes, IUIC classes, other classes, right? Zabat, Hashar, Chief Eve, the Sakari, anybody that had biblical information, because I wanted to learn, I wanted to know. And what I learned initially that applies today, still is prevalent today, is that across the board, everyone in Israel who's teaching is an ego-fucking maniac. Egomaniac. But I kept following, I kept listening, right? I kept studying, I kept learning. And real talk, even though I had certain principles from the Bible, because I grew up in the Bible, shout outs to Big Ness, my mama, she made sure she taught us that Bible. Hell, she beat us in the blood of Jesus, right? But she didn't teach us that we were Israel. But there were certain biblical doctrines that I applied. So I kept listening and I kept studying, because these men appeared to have a knowledge of that Bible that was otherwise hidden. So I kept following, I kept studying. And at no point did I want to join them, right? I was like, I don't like these niggas. None of them, right? But that's all me, right? That's all my ego. That's all my shortcomings. That's all my shit. So I kept following, I kept studying. And then one night, last year in the summer, I decided I'm going to join an Israelite group, and not just any Israelite group, but the Universal Practical Knowledge, because at that point, I figured I just want the knowledge, right? These men, they know better than me. They know that book. They know that book. So I give them that. right? They got that book. They know that book. They know that knowledge. But their conduct, their character, they ain't no better than me, right? So I decided I'm going to join them, right? Because I'm not, in my opinion, right, not complete enough to join the IUIC because of my ego. And I'll only join the UPK because they a bunch of niggas like me. Like all of them, every one of them, right? They like live in my neighborhood. Not that any of them do, I'm saying, but these are people that I can poly with because I'm like these people and they like me in a sense, right? We got ego problems, but I was willing to overlook all that. I was willing to overlook, and I was going to join the UPK. That was, I believe, July 2021. It was the night of a debate on Cross the Line Radio between Karzai and some Muslim. And they had debated Muslims before, and it was always a shit show. But this particular debate was what sealed it for me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to join these things. I'm going to join them particularly because you know what? At the end of the day, they say slick shit. We can get it in. And I'm older, right? Getting it in is a totally different thing for me. But that night of that debate, I decided I'm going to join the UPK, and I made that decision. I said, bet, that's what it is. So I kept watching the show. After that debate, I called in. I put my 2 cents in. And then I hung up. Of course, the hosts had to talk their little shit, make their little comments because, you know, they can't help it. So I sat back and I watched. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm about to join this camp, even though I don't like these two jugheads, even though their commanding general is insane. Because he said that he's only second to Christ. That's insane. But I was willing to overlook that. I was willing to overlook these two knuckleheads' ego. I was willing to overlook a lot of shit to join that group. But then he did it. A caller calls in and he makes some comment and some claim, and he asks a question and he wasn't satisfied with the answer that the host gave him. So he made a comment. Yeah, you can't answer my question. And the comment got rough. I mean, the captain got ruffled or upset, or his ego kicked in. I don't know what happened. But the captain, the host, told that man that he should have sex with a lion. And at that very moment, right soon as he said it, I lost my shit. Because I was just about to join this group, and I knew it. I knew that it was a bad idea. I knew that that ego wasn't checked, and I wasn't going to be able to be in front of him and learn from him particularly, and be under him completely. Pause. Like, be a subordinate to him, I couldn't do it. So I got mad because after all that time of avoiding joining a group, I made a decision to join, only to realize that my concerns were validated and they were real. That this guy's an egomaniac, as is the organization, and much like the IUIC, I won't be able to join them either because my ego ain't in check. And I can't be around people whose egos ain't in check because I'm liable to say something. I'm liable to do something and then get put out. And I'd be goddamn if I'm going to get put out of an organization that I ain't even want to be a part of, right? I was just doing it to get the knowledge, to get the base, to get that book. I figured, hey, if they could do it, I could do it. And clearly I can. And clearly I can still operate in my ego. But I decided at that moment that I'm going to, try to fix that for me. I remember that as I watched the show, conflicted now, because I was just excited about joining. Now I'm like, yeah, I knew I was right. I'm glad I didn't join. I'm glad I'm not gonna join. I still thought to myself, you know what? I might still do this. Let me give him a call. So I picked up the phone and I gave him a call. Now he'll say that I didn't. He's a liar. But I called them. No response. Day went by, no response. Bunch of time went by, no response. And then at a certain point, like, I got angrier because I was going to join this organization and now I'm not. And I knew I was right. So I got pissed that nobody checked this nigga, that he didn't check himself. Right? A captain of the UPK tells a man to have sex with a lion in defiance to God's bestiality law. Whether he meant it or not is not the point. He said it. And when he said it, he giggled like a bitch. Pardon my language. I'm sorry. He giggled. He was pleased with himself. And then he said it again. And you could tell that the dude who was on the phone was offended. But I got offended because, damn, I was going to join and then you did some dumb shit like that and won't check yourself, haven't checked yourself. So I did a series of videos just vomiting the incident. And I was wrong. I shouldn't have done those videos like that. I should have been reserved and I should have just, let go and let God, but I didn't, right? Because again, remember, this whole thing started because of my ego. Why I don't join? Because of my ego. But not just my ego. The fact that all across the board, every Israelite organization, their leadership and most of their subordinates are a bunch of fucking egomaniacs. And they need to get that in check. Because I'm an egomaniac. I could recognize it. Other people can recognize it. And note, if you don't believe me, right? Everyone's complaint about every Israelite group is the same. You talk too harshly to your people. Then you justify it by quoting the Bible saying, cry aloud and spare not their feelings. Well, crying aloud means raising your voice when you're uttering the word of God. Sparing not isn't really tied to their feelings. It means don't leave anything out. Don't leave anything out. Right? So cry aloud and spare not means raise your voice when uttering God's word and don't leave one part of it out. But you all justify it, you spin it, you give it your own interpretation, and you think it gives you license to scream on people. In particular, your people, right? African American, Black, Hispanic, Latino. But take note, everyone who watches this, Israel, non-Israel, take note. None of you in any organization is banging on the white man. Not really. You'll talk your shit, but you ain't doing nothing against him directly. There is no frontal assault on the devil. You ain't banging on the goddamn devil. You banging on your own people. And I say you need to check yourself, because the reality is that you ain't doing shit for your people. Yeah, you throwing cookouts, right? But I quote the Bible. You give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach him to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. You're gathering souls to your organizations, right? Collecting your tithes and your money and whatever other bullshit you're getting, right? 5031C or whatever your organizations is. You have traded God for government, and you interpret according to your own understanding, which we're not supposed to lean on, right? Now, I'm not saying that you guys don't know that book. I'm not saying that. Everything that I know about that book now, outside of what I didn't learn early, everything that I know now about the people and their obligation to that God, I know from Israel. From the likes of Bishop Nathaniel, his deacons, his captains, his officers, from General Mahayaman and even Captain Tazaria. I don't like that nigga, but he know that book. And I got offended because I was about to join. And now I can't join, right? Because the truth of the matter is that you're all ego and we gonna bump heads. Like so many people that have left the organizations, all bumped heads because of ego. I think I'm the only person willing to admit that. That aside, if you're going to join one of these organizations, and I wouldn't, but if you're gonna, right, make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you research that organization, its leadership, its protocols, its doctrine. Because once you join, you're going to have to kiss their ass. You're going to have to. You're going to have to say, yes, sir, no, sir, which is okay. You should be able to say that to your brethren, right? But I can't do it. When I know that you flawed, like you ain't no better than me, I'm going to treat you like I would treat anybody else that ain't better than me, right? I'm going to keep you at bay, and too much of your lip, I'll get you smacked. And if I can't smack you, my brother will smack the dog shit out you. And if my brother don't smack the dog shit out you, I'll pay, what's his name? Tinguaro. I'll pay Tinguaro. Pay Tinguaro to bust you upside your motherfucking head. Right? But all that is just fucking around. I'm just joking. And I apologize for the potty mouth, right? I'm just me. I don't know how to be anything other than myself. And I say, you know what? You can use a colorful adjective when you have to, right? My vernacular is a little colorful. I know how to properly say fuck. Right? I know how to use these cuss words, and I use them. And I'm sorry if it offends any of you. And I know that we shouldn't speak that way. But I do, and that's just what it is. I'll do better as I progress. But for now, remember what I've said. Do your due diligence. If you're going to join any of these organizations, know what you're getting into, right? And most importantly, check your ego. Don't check it at the door. Check it at home. Leave it at home. Don't let it out, because it's not productive, especially if you want to join an Israelite camp, because you got to fall under a kingdom mentality, and you got to be willing to follow. And right now I'm not, especially not none of them. Not as far as organizing, not as far as joining them. I'll watch your classes. I'll do all that till I can't. Right? But I'm not joining, and any of you who are considering, you should reconsider, because you don't have to join. You can attend all of their classes online. You can donate to them if you so wish. You can ask any question. They'll be more than willing to answer them. You don't have to join them. But once you do join, just know everything changes, and the bulk of it will be a transition that will try you, will test you, right? I think the scriptures say, prepare your soul for temptation when you come into this. So prepare yourself, because a lot of people have joined these organizations, and a lot of people have left these organizations, and they all say the same thing. The organizations, I mean, they all say that once you leave them, you're no longer in the truth. They say that. They say it. They'll deny it, but they say it. All you got to do is watch their videos, and you'll hear it on multiple occasions, right? And then they'll talk shit about each other. For instance, ISUPK says, we are the house of the truth. If you're not with us, you're not in the truth. So they're just blatant from the beginning. IUIC says things like, if we're not the men of God, then show us who is. You know, indirectly saying that there are no other houses or camps or organizations that are in the truth, just them. Either way, and they say, look at their works. I tend to agree on the works, but they're all putting in work. At least IUIC and ISUPK are. I don't know about the rest, really. I know they're all over the place. So whatever. Do your due diligence. And remember, you don't got to join. But if you do, just be ready to give up everything that you are, because they command it, they demand it, right? And you have to be willing to comply and conform. And truly, you will conform to the Bible, but you will also conform to their protocols. So, with that, I say shalom. Stay up, let go and let God. You heard?